So record the audio for you. This whole thing, man. Goddamn, how many engineers do you need to do a video?
Dude, yeah, it's been interesting. Me too. Yeah, I just got this little freaking like stand thing too, the boom stand thing.
Oh, there you go. So you got a legit mic. Well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have a drink because, oh Jesus.
Oh yeah, I brought that too.
What
Brought
you
some
got?
some
Oh
mescalito,
shit, some mezcal. Hell yeah. I'm doing the white people stuff today for this one.
buffalo drinks. Yeah,
Well, I can't afford the scotch anymore, so we got to go to the bourbon.
yeah. Just sell a guitar, dude.
I don't have any more. All my
You don't?
guitars are in Cali right now.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like this guitar is the last one. Like I bought this one, this Benito Huipe guitar, and it's like I bought it out of desperation just because all my guitars are at the Candela shop right now.
Oh wow.
Getting repaired because of the flood I had in here and the water damage. It was like making like this part bowing in, and it
Oh
wasn't
wow.
tuning right, and so he was like, yeah, we'll just hold them here. And then the Pinchi virus hit, and then as we were coming out of California, like everything was shutting down, and it is what it's been for a month now. But this thing is badass, man.
Well, shit. At the very least, at least you got your office done right before all this shit hit, dude.
Oh my God, man. Did you see my videos of what it was like before?
Yeah.
Like it was just a slab and like no walls.
Nothing. Yeah. So the timing was kind of weird, right? And I mean, like, at least you have your office all set up because now that's the only place you spend your time at.
Yeah, I pretty much spend 10 hours a day in here and then getting all this set up. But how's it been for you? I mean, so you're working from home too, right?
Yeah, I work, well, I'd say like 75%. I'm working at home, and then I go in like 2 days out of the week
Oh, nice.
as needed. Yeah, just to go do work in there.
Well, you're an
yeah, but for
engineer,
the most
so
part,
sometimes you got to be in the lab.
yeah, I mean, there's certain things there that you can only work on in there, and so I mean, it's not accessible.
I remember how it went. I remember how it goes.
Yeah, dude. So I mean, it's been different because I'm obviously spending. I mean, you too, right? You're spending a lot more time at home, and it's like you're kind of, I don't know. I'm in my like music office too, and so I like it when I'm not having to work on work stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm in here, and it's like it becomes my creative space, right? And just kind of like mess around and do all the nerdy stuff and play music and play with all the microphones and just figure it out, dude.
Then it's fun. That's why I bought my orange couch. So I bought my couch, so then I have my TV set up over here, and I can just watch whatever if I don't want to be in the living room. And so
Yeah.
it's working out pretty well, man. I mean, except for being furloughed and not being able to play gigs and losing a ton of cash, it's been pretty good. But that's how it's been for everybody, man. I've been talking to a lot of people, and they're fucking broke right now.
What have you been doing to like pass the time? You just work?
Just
Like
work.
on music stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So when I'm on my furlough week, my first furlough week, I actually worked on the office more, got everything set up the way I wanted it, and just working on my house. I still have a room that needs flooring, and then just trying to do videos, practicing's been a big one. I just pick up the bass and just turn on old Campero CDs and just
Jam
play.
out.
Yeah, just jam out, and that's pretty much it. And then there's Call of Duty,
Nice.
Modern Warfare. That's been rekindled. I haven't been playing video games like for years, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, time for them headshots.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was actually thinking about buying a video game system this year for Christmas. So the last video game system that I have is like PS2, dude.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I just like, I guess for whatever reason, music took over, then college, and I just never got a chance to kind of
go back to it.
To find time to do it. And
well, that's
so
good.
Now it's like, damn, I wish I would have bought that system in Christmas time or whatever, and I would have had something. But at the same time too, it's like I said, it's given me the opportunity to practice more and to what I want to do is pick up new skills, right? And the media stuff and get a little better with mixing and recording and that whole process. So you become more efficient, right? And you can do more of them. And so the more shitty ones that come out, you're going to get closer to seeing progress and figuring out your whole process so that you can make something good, right?
Yeah, make something quality, make something so it's, the biggest thing is time, is figuring out a setup that takes away less time from you, right? And you can spend hours editing these videos, and then you'll spend hours letting the computer render. And you're like, fuck,
Yeah.
one video can take all day long. And you're just like, well, I hope it does well, because this took me an entire day.
Dude, yeah, exactly. So going to that point is, so I don't know, you had seen that we were doing the videos for the conference, right? So
Yeah,
same
yeah.
thing too, right? They'd send me raw video, and then I'd have to go in and edit the front end and, add the logo and do all the title stuff and just make it look pretty and presentable, and shrink it to a size where YouTube's happy, right? Where it doesn't spend 7 hours trying to upload one video.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
by like Tuesday night, mid Wednesday, yeah, I think Wednesday morning to mid Wednesday, I had already figured out a system where I was uploading, like 10 to 15 videos a day.
Damn. That's
But it was just
impressive.
like being at it. Yeah, it was, it was like you said, you figure out all the crappy stuff and whatever takes the longest to do, and you just start kind of improving on that, right? And see, all right, well, what's my longest lead task or whatever, and just bring it in as much as you can.
I was thinking about building a new PC. So I was going to build an actual workstation. I
Nice.
spec'd everything out, and I'm like, all right, well, get an AMD processor, get a decent board, pretty much the same spec you would do for gaming minus the graphics card, because I just want processing power.
Yeah.
And then this happened, and I'm like, ugh, well, there goes that $1,000 idea.
Well, in a way, it's kind of good that you didn't spend it yet, right? I mean,
Yeah, I didn't spend it.
$1,000.
I've been a little theatrical with my money. Well, just because
Yeah,
I knew that I was going to be buying a guitar this year. So everything that I have, I've just been like,
socking it away.
yeah, just keeping it just so that I can just, when it's done, I'm like, well, boom, here's everything I sent, a down payment for my guitar. And
Yeah.
then all this shit
Tomas
happened.
making you a guitar?
Yeah, dude, it's going to be, I don't know. It has like, it's funny because we've talked about it, and it has the potential to be like one of the, like, it just phenomenal, crazy guitar,
Yeah.
just out of the world, or we're gonna throw it in the fire.
Oh. Why is that? You guys trying out like new concepts or
We're
something?
trying out some new stuff. Yeah, well he is. I mean, I told him what I wanted,
Yeah.
and I sat in his parlor just kind of playing different guitars and just trying to get like what I want. And then like at the end of the day, it's like what we're trying to avoid doing is making three guitars into one guitar. Like we're getting like to that like level of detail. And so yeah, I spent like two days in a shop, and we just hashed it out. And then a few weeks ago he called me right before all this shit hit the fan, and he was showing me ideas for the Rosette,
Oh, cool.
because people have been copying a lot of his shit. Like I like even guys in Mexico, like I see the guitar player from Nuevo, and he's
Oh, I
playing
see that.
he's
Yeah.
playing a guitar. It's an exact copy of Tomas's work, and it's not his guitar. And I was like, dude, people are copying the shit out of Morales and Candelo's guitars, and they're just renaming it their own thing,
Yeah.
and passing it along. And I'm just like, ew. I think that
That's the image, right? Pretty much.
yeah, just copying the image, and who knows how it sounds, or what it's like. Maybe
Yeah.
it sounds good, but then even still, it's still a copy, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that bothered him, because he saw somebody who copied like the Star of David star rosette that he's been doing for a long time, and that goes out to like the high end concert guitars, right?
The
And that's what
big,
we
the big star, right?
yeah, the big star, the one that has like the loops, right?
Yeah.
And he was going to do that for mine, and then he's like, dude, like I already see people copying that on guitars now. And I was like, shit. And he's like, I don't want that to be your guitar. And I was like, you know what do you got? And he'd been like spending a week trying to figure this shit out. And I was just like, oh man, that sucks for you, bro.
Yeah.
And so he came up with a different design. And I don't want to give it away, but it's totally different than what he's done before.
Nice.
Like it's totally different thing. And then the choice of woods, like we're gonna go with spruce and with maple. So super old school, like 1800, guitar building stuff, where it's like tiger stripe maple, spruce top. And it's like sometimes that doesn't go well. Like sometimes you want like maple, you're going to do cedar. And I was like, well, no, I want spruce. Like I want something very specific. So I don't know. I put a huge challenge to the guy, and he is who he is. So
Yeah.
he's got my
Well, that's
trust.
good that he's like kind of perfectionist like that, because at the end of the day, it's his name on it,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Regardless of who owns it. So it's like he wants to make sure it's a good product and it's it's really something that like carries his brand, right?
Yeah, and it's
That's
something
that's
kind of
cool, man.
new. Yeah,
I
we could have
admire
just done
people
the
like that.
standard and done it.
Yeah.
It's like whatever, like why even do it if you're not going to make it crazy? Kind of like your harps, dude. Like you start out like when I first knew you, all you were playing was a Morales harp, and you're kind of evolved beyond that too.
Yeah, dude. It's interesting, right? As you start finding like not necessarily limitations, but certain things or qualities that you want more of.
Yeah,
Ease of playing or a different kind of tonal balance, you could say. Just a different look. So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty natural as you evolve with whatever skill set. In this case, being a musician, you kind of demand more from your instrument, or you want something different, right? And so
yeah,
like you said, you pose that challenge to the constructor, and more times than not, they're going to be able to be like, yeah, this is we matched you with what you wanted, and we did this other cool thing because
yeah.
it meant something to them to figure out something, or it was an
Well,
opportunity for them to grow as well, right?
yeah. Well, like your harp is super badass. I mean, just playing gigs like in an open space that one time, like you tripped everybody out when you turned on the amp on that thing,
Oh yeah,
and they were just like, "What the fuck?"
yeah, yeah, dude. It's a good sounding harp, man. I've been super happy with it. Viegas harp. I actually have two on order right now. You see, kind of trying to do the same thing too, right? It's like let's push a different boundary and see what we can stretch a limit on.
Interesting.
Not
So,
necessarily look different, but sound different and feel a little bit different.
like different balances between the basses and the
Yeah,
trebles, and
right.
different
Yeah,
tension, and
yeah. So it's a calibration of tensions and different ways of even laying down the bracing for the sound for the
damn.
soundboard and things like that. Yeah, it's cool, man. So I
Isn't
mean,
it crazy that they can get like that much of a difference, and just slight differences just make it a whole different instrument? Like the
that's how you know
technical.
their shit, right?
Yeah.
When they can tell you, well, if we do this different, it's gonna affect this, or if we do this different, like they already know the result of something that they've tested over and over with different instruments, right, leading up to yours, or they know their process, right? Essentially, is what it
Yeah.
is.
They know the math. They're engineers with instruments, right? Because that's
Yeah,
that's
dude.
that's what we have to do. You go into a design review, it's like, well, how is this going to be? How's that? You're going to know the math, bro. And those guys that are that high level, like me
Yeah,
and Tomas, we can talk about the physics and the mathematics that go into guitars. Like he knows that shit. And I'm just like, man, it's like, okay, some people intuit things, right? Like some people can intuit how to build
yeah,
certain things, but then some people just know the math and just like, well, that much density, that much of a millimeter, that
yeah.
much shorter, that much longer, you're going to get this kind of vibration, you're going to get this kind of wave, you're going to bring out the bass more here. And it's not bullshit. Like it actually happens, like when you get
Which is
into it.
what you want as a customer, right? You don't want to hand over 2-3 grand or whatever it costs to just give to some guy that's going to be like, well, let's just see what happens, and
Yeah.
you're like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to wait 6 to 8 months to get an instrument that I absolutely hate and did not want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's death. That's a death sentence right there. Like, well, I'm stuck with this now until I can sell it to somebody who thinks it sounds good.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of been working in the background, just playing around with different harps and just I don't know. I just like. I think to continue to purchase instruments, you start gaining different perspectives, and it's not necessarily that you like a certain particular way. I mean, it might like all my harps. The other day I pulled them all out, and they're just kind of hanging out here in the room. And I spent about an hour on each of them, just kind of playing around with them, just to really hear the sound back to back, because I had never had them all three in a room out of the cases, like ready to play. So I was like, I was kind of interested in seeing just the differences in sound and feel and things like that. And and going back to probably nostalgia is a big piece of that, but going back and sitting with one of my old harps that I used to play on a continuous basis is like, I don't know, it was kind of cool, man. I really enjoyed it, and I understood why I loved each and every one of those harps for different reasons. It's like, oh
Just rediscovering your toolbox, right?
yeah, it was cool, man. It was like a glimpse of my past in a way. It's like, oh, I remember learning this song on this instrument, or spending hours trying to pull out this solo, or did a performance with this harp. Or yeah, it's cool. It's an
Nice.
interesting
So
way to
that's
think
the
about.
that's the answer to the question when people see like, what do you do with 4, 5, 10 different instruments? There was a point where I had like 10 different guitars in my house.
Yeah.
Like I had pimenteros, I had a conde guitar, I had a Lorente guitar. I had a couple of Candelas guitars, a Yamaha, Ramirez. I had all kinds of shit in my room.
Yeah.
And at one point, like, I think even Veronica asked, she's like, "What do you do? Like, do you play all of them at once?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I'll line them all up sometimes, and I'll just start playing them like used to like a half hour each, and just go back and forth and just play them along with different recordings. And you're studying on a different level, right? You're taking that's the grad level class, right? You're not just taking freshman year statistics. Like, this is graduate level work that I'm doing right now. I'm trying to gain a new understanding of myself and of how I respond to different types of instruments. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a journey people don't take.
Well, then you have to be willing to adjust, right? Like I've seen guys that badass players, and they'll grab some shitty instrument and they fucking jam out. You're just like, holy crap, how did you make that happen? Anytime I play it, it sounds like shit, but it's like they've spent so much time playing on good, bad, horrible instruments that they know how to adjust to each of them, right? And it's just, and I like what we're talking about with instrument makers. They know if I do a slight adjustment here or there, how it's going to affect the end result. I think that's really telling of how much time they've put into their craft.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I feel so unworthy personally to have a friend like Tomas and to be able to just go into his taller and just be like, I want this, this, and this, and leave him with the problem of figuring out how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel overprivileged. It's like, I'm not even that great of a player. It's like, how do I get to be able to say, well, okay, here's what we're looking for. Can we do it? And then just watch him, make his wheels turn, and I'm just like, oh shit, I'm actually challenging a little bit here. Like, that's crazy. But that's just how instrument makers are. Yeah, that's how they are. They're like, they like that challenge. They're like, hell yeah, I'll stay up and think about this, and I'll have a crazy idea and start drawing it out at 3:00 in the morning. And I'm just like,
yeah, it's art, right?
It's real shit. Yeah, that's the art, right?
It's the art of it. Yeah.
So how are things going in Tucson, man? I've been hearing a lot about the COVID. My mom and my nana still live on the south side, basically. Well, my mom lives way the hell out by old Tucson, but
yeah,
like, how is it in Tucson? I hear that there's a lot of infection, like in my nana's neighborhood in the south side.
So yeah, they've broken it out to probably in Phoenix too, right? By like zip code.
Yeah.
And so I guess there's stats that come in that relate people to certain zip codes, and they're able to find out certain neighborhoods, right, that have higher risks of infection and things like that.
It's a weird thing being.
Yeah, I think I live in one of them. Yeah, in 85713, which is close here to A Mountain.
Yep.
And so
that's right. You live in my great grandmother's neighborhood. Like, the shittier part of your area, right behind your neighborhood.
Yeah.
My mom grew up in that neighborhood.
What do they call it? What do they call it?
Little Jamaica.
Yeah, Little Jamaica. That's right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, my great grandmother's house was right down that street. So if you go a little further towards Choya,
yeah,
my tia Margie still lives in that old house, and they lived there for 80 years, dude.
Crazy, dude. Yeah, that's literally down the street from my house. Like, I take one turn and I'm in the main drag out to Choya.
Yep. That's where I grew up, man. I remember spending all my like childhood, like, so that's that's where I got the first ear for music. So when I was like 3 years old, 4 years old, my great grandfather was still kind of alive. He was in his 80s, and they would have parties. Like, he was my size. Like, imagine me, but an old school Mexican from Hermosillo, and like take no shit kind of guy. He was a foreman for the county.
Yeah.
Like, imagine me, my size, but I had a real shitty attitude. You know what I mean? And so he was like that. And everybody in the family, every Sunday, his house. Every 4th of July, every Mother's Day, his house. And if you didn't show up, he was going to give you shit for it. Like, everybody was required. Yeah, he'd take it personal. Like, pues, ¿qué pasó? Why aren't you showing up, right? And he was a piano player, a guitar player, a bass player. He sang. All of his daughters, my nana, they all sang. His son played guitar. And so in that neighborhood, that's where I was one of the only nietos that heard the music and took to it. Like, I was the only one.
That's one of the things I really like about Tucson, even to this day, in the sense that it's a tradition that keeps getting passed. Like, you go to the Valenzuela's house for a barbecue, and they all play instruments and they're all jamming out, and that's what they do, right? It's part of the party. You know that there's going to be a big jam session at some point, and there's going to be a freaking blast, right? You go with the Gallegos, same thing, right?
Same
You
deal.
go with the Rangeles, same thing. So I think that's pretty cool. In terms of like family and music, is that it's still, for me, from what I've seen, it's still continuous in even the newer generations.
Oh yeah, and there's
And I
kids at
think,
those parties. They're hearing it. One of those kids is going to get an ear for that music.
yeah, or they already are, right? And they're playing in groups and little kid groups and middle school and high school, and it's like, yeah, a lot of the good ones are not just because they sprouted up out of nowhere. It's because they've been
Yeah, but
hearing this kind of music since their parents, since their grandparents, since probably even before that. You know, it's kind of
yeah,
in a way in their blood, as you could say. And
it kind of is, right? Like it's in the water. It's
yeah,
weird that
exactly.
we
Yeah,
came up like this, and it's probably the same thing in El Paso too. I know we've talked about this where you grew up, and there's a whole tradition in Texas of mariachi music too, right?
yeah. And I think the mariachi music though now is more tied to to it being in schools. So
It's like
when I
high
was like,
level. It goes all the way to college.
yeah, but that's a different dynamic also than within the family, right? Because now it's like for a grade, and it's you're kind of more obligated to do it, and it's in a different kind of realm of learning and performance, because you're not just doing it for your family and for fun. You're doing it for a grade and for a competition, and so it's a little bit different in that sense. But what I was going towards is that, yeah, like as I was moving away from, I left El Paso in 2015, and so the last couple of years that I was there, I just kind of started seeing that, a lot of kids weren't interested in music anymore, right? You would go to their parties and you'd see the older gentlemen or the women singing and stuff, but it ended at a particular age in a way, and it never kept going.
Oh shit, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
whereas you come to a party here and you see anybody from the great tata all the way to like the smallest kid playing or singing or taking part in some part of the music, right? And it's like, damn, this is cool. So that
Yeah,
translates out to you go to the to gigs and musicals, and there's a lot of people that they have a lot of knowledge and experience, just because they've been exposed through it, through their family and tradition, right? So I think that's pretty cool, man. It's a different perspective, and I think it's nice to be in an area where it's continuous, and El Paso, from what I see, it's starting to pick up again, and it's kind of being reintegrated into the schools and stuff, but it's more driven from competition, because they want to be like the other parts of Texas, like the Valley and Houston and
oh
Dallas,
yeah, it's big
and
there, huh? Like the
yeah,
competition
it's a different,
aspect.
yeah, it's a different approach to it,
It's
I think
interesting
it's
because Tucson's never been much for competition other than just like, well, I'm the guitar player for Chongos. He's a guitar player for Aslan. It's like,
yeah,
well, fuck you. Well, fuck you. It's like, I want to play. You want to play. I'm better. You're better. I'm better.
yeah,
Your mom is better. That's the kind of competition I grew up with.
yeah,
But like actual, like having judges, like if you or me were going to be going and judging a competition, you're looking at like how are they doing their bow, how are they, how are they stylistically, how are they dynamically, sound wise, and like it's getting really technical.
yeah.
It's like that's
But
one thing I
in a way,
noticed
it's
there.
kind of good though too, because it's bringing up the, I guess, technical expectations, so that it's somewhat in line with like orchestra and band and jazz, right? Because those they have competitions for those too in the high schools and middle school, right? What
Very
they call
true.
like regional levels and state level and all state bands and things like that. So I mean, it comes from a good place where they're just trying to equalize the playing ground and really legitimize, a mariachi performer is not just, oh, you're just some little kid that plays, rancheritas and stuff. It's somebody that they can play well, they can play in tune, they can play with good technique, they can play in time, the
Yeah.
chords sound good. So I mean, in a way, I respect that movement, because in all honesty, it does bring up the level of technicality so that it's more legitimate and aligned with like band and orchestra and jazz, and it's not really something that's looked down upon in that sense.
So is there anything in those systems, and that's really what it is, a system of learning, is there anything for getting them also exposure to the chamba way of life, right? Because there's few of us that can do well. Like you're a prime example. Like when I first met you, you were playing on stage with Mariachi Cobre back in like 2010, and I was like, oh shit, that's a badass harp player. But we'll take you to the shittiest gig on south side of Tucson or Phoenix, and every song, yep, let's go, let's do it, right?
Yeah,
And so those occasions are very rare and far in between. It's like, are they also considering, like, what's the criteria, like when you're a high school student versus when you're starting to become a working musician, right? Like at what point does that switch turn on that they also have to learn repertoire and they have to be true students.
Yeah, and so I think that's what I see a lot in Texas is that they they just solely focus on, the competition, like the taking the test mentality.
Oh
It's
man.
trained for the test, right? And
Yeah.
in a way, it's good because that's all you're working for, and you're gonna obviously come out good. But it isn't
Polished.
really, yeah, but it doesn't hold true to the actual like behind the scenes work that needs to get done. So like in mariachi per se, I think it's important, that you go out and do gigs, and I think the groups here in town do a good job of that. Is they're out performing and doing gigs on the weekends. Sometimes a lot of these school groups have more gigs than the community groups or the semi-professional groups here around town. And
Yeah.
it's not because they're kids, it's because they play well, and so they start learning kind of like the chamba way of life, right? It's not just songs that you rehearsed at school over and over. It's what does Nana and Tata want to hear? What does the Tia want to hear? And how do you like problem solving right on the spot? Oh
Yeah.
crap, we know the song in one key, but they want
Transposing.
this other key. Yeah, so I think you gotta put yourself in the fire. And as a teacher, I think it's important that you throw them both to expect them both to succeed in a chamba kind of environment and also in a
On stage.
competition. Yeah, and I think you kind of get the best of both worlds and really just problem solve because you become more keen and you have your ears open to a lot of things and subtle cues that you can see from your compañeros. And so I mean, yeah, it's a different way of training. It obviously takes a lot more time, and
Yeah.
there's kids that are going to play and do well in competitions and never ever play a chamba, and that's fine too. And the opposite, right? There's kids that are always going to be doing chambas and never do a stage gig, and that's fine too. So I
Either
think,
way they're winning, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think as long as you learn how to navigate each situation, whether you're doing both or not, then I think, just the fact that you learned how to get around certain things is I'd call it a good thing, it's a success.
Well, most of the students that I've seen in the last 20 years, since when I was a kid, like a lot of us have gone on to become professionals, engineers, business
Yeah.
professionals, doctors, and then some, full blown musicians,
Right.
and then some of us both, right? So some of us are like you and me, we have professional jobs that we went to school for. And I did a podcast this weekend, and one of my friends was like, well, do you use your degree? I'm like, well, yes, I got a very technical degree, so I use it every day. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't do my job without it. At the same time, like when I'm not doing that and when I have time to do this, I'm like, I'm trying to be the best guitar player I can possibly be. Like
Correct.
I'm
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
over every little detail in the vihuela, on the guitar, on the bass, and I'm listening to all those recordings.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
doubling up.
it's a mindset, right? Really is what it is. It's like, how do you teach yourself to teach yourself in a way,
Yeah,
and it's
lots of YouTube.
yeah. And so some people do ask me like, the thing is, hey, so what you learned in school, is that what you do in your job? Yes and no, not exactly, but
No.
more than anything, I learned how to get myself out of a tough place and figure out and learn how to be resourceful. And right, I mean, the things that I do
Yeah.
at work is not something that I'm going to learn per se. That's teaching to the test, right? The exact
Yeah.
situation you're training to is the exact situation you're going to be challenged.
Yeah.
That's super unrealistic.
Never
Okay?
happens.
Yeah, exactly. So
You don't get trained to walk into a lab and deal with, $500,000 problems on a daily basis,
yeah, exactly.
or how
Yeah,
to manage people, how to manage younger people, and then also try to temper expectations for your seniors and your supervisors and
yeah,
your SMEs and your higher ups. You're like, well, they don't teach you that in school. You have to
yeah,
learn that
exactly.
stuff.
How to navigate like the politics of things, and so that going back to music, I think that's where I've learned a lot of things is, how to navigate the politics of things and how to people situations, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly, and how that pertains to you being successful in work, because it's not you just show up, play, do well, and then get out. I mean, it
Yeah.
is to some extent, it can be,
Sometimes
but
on an easy day.
you do have to interact with people, and like for you to even get a gig or whatever, you have to be in the good graces of somebody that whoever's going to call you, or
Oh yeah.
so I mean,
You got to be in somebody's phone book.
yeah, exactly, right. And so it's like there's a lot of factors that you're never going to be able to train for, and so you just got to have that mindset and be willing to one, accept an opportunity, learn from it, and then kind of just build off of that and make it work for you. And your whole going back to the whole process thing, right? Is you learn your process and you start pivoting and refining it as it works for you.
Yeah.
I
You
think,
evolve. You become a very strong individual, and then you become that kind of like almost like an asset where it's like, well, we need a person like this, and you're on a list, and then you get in, you get out, you do your thing, and then you
yeah,
get paid.
Yeah.
And,
Well, like you said, it's going back to the whole guitar maker thing. It's like if somebody has a need for some sort and you're able to figure out what you have to do to meet that need, right? Because you can already predict the end result because you've already put time in to figure out the inputs and the outputs, and it's like, okay, I can do your requests and I can do it well, and there you go.
consistency.
Yeah, you're just not going out there and just throwing yourself in the fire knowing that you're gonna just fall flat on your face because
Oh,
you didn't
man.
practice that song or learn that song, or
It's embarrassing.
and you're like, yeah, sale, vámonos, en fa, let's go, let's do it.
Like,
And then
boom,
it's like
boom, 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 boom.
first three measures, yeah, just freaking lost, dude.
And everyone's looking at you like, fuck, this guy sucks.
Yeah. Like you said, you knew it, man. ¿Qué pedo?
Ew, who brought this dude, man?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, it's figuring out the system of, that and listening to a crap load of recordings, and you just got to nerd out, right? Is really what you got to do. Is like you said, spend time with your instrument, spend time with the recordings, spend time with videos, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you find out kind of what works.
Yeah, my dogs are getting pissed because I have them locked out of my office. So I have a pillow right over here, and they're used to just walking in and sitting down, and I don't know why they're barking. Oh God, dogs! Don't get dogs. They're like children that never grow up.
I was thinking about getting a dog, actually. I was like, damn, because I've been at my house. Literally, it's just been me by myself. I haven't seen anybody for like, I saw Johnny and Chantal the other day when we did that news interview, but it was like 30 minutes and that's it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I haven't seen anybody for probably like a month plus, dude. Yeah, since probably the beginning of March was the last time that I like actually hung out with somebody in person, other than Zoom. Right? And it's kind of weird to say that. It's like, it's very what is the term that they use? Unprecedented, right?
It really is
kind of thing, and it's like
this would actually happen.
Yeah, dude.
I can't think of anything like this since in our history, since the Second World War. Like the only thing that comes close is when my mom told me stories of growing up in the 60s and 70s, is they would have missile drills because we were in a Cold War with Russia. Yeah. So my mom told me that when she was a kid, my nana would say shit like, "Ahí vienen los Rusios, ahí vienen los Rusios," and she'd be freaking out. And it's like, okay, maybe that was 40 years ago. Yeah. And now we're dealing with this, and this is just, a panic, really what it is in economics. And it's going to be a panic that leads to okay, I shouldn't say things like this on YouTube because I'm not a PhD, but it's going to be a panic that eventually might lead to a real either recession or depression if we don't get our shit together. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how we're not in breadlines right now. Like the projections are like 16-18% unemployment. Like the last time that occurred, everything shut down. Maybe it's because we're no longer on the gold standard. Maybe it's because our fiat currency, we can print money to a certain level, and people have optimism.
Like, people have been trained to be victims, right, of hardcore capitalism and hardcore consumerism, right? Whereas, to me, in a way, it's kind of ridiculous that individual people all the way up to the world's or the nation's largest corporations don't have enough money saved up to last a month, right? They're already for bailouts and
they're already fucked. 1 week, they're done.
And it's like, really? Like, didn't your mom tell you to save? And it kind of baffles me that, and it's sad to see that happen. And like I said, from the largest corporations that probably won't come back after this if they don't get bailed out. Yeah. To your neighbor, right, that possibly, they didn't have enough money saved and they might lose their house, or they don't have enough money to buy food because they're waiting on the Trump check. Like there's a bunch of messed up situations that shouldn't have happened. Yeah. But they did, and so like I think this whole situation is really exposing all the flaws in society, whether it's business, personal, mental, like everything, right? Like the freaking fabric, dude, is just being stretched to its max, and it's let's see what pops first, and then boom, boom, everything just kind of gives.
This is like the worst vibration test that you'll ever see. Yeah. Like we're gonna shake that bitch until the bolts come off.
Yeah, and then see what happens, dude.
And then see what happens. It's like, oh wow, look at that! The bolt went right through the sheet metal. Holy shit! How did that happen?
But I think it's interesting too because I think it'll spur the creation of hopefully something that's good in the sense that people start rethinking viable and feasible ways of conducting business, of doing art, of communication, right? Like the first couple of weeks this whole thing happened, it was kind of like a joke to everybody, and and the people started dying, and it was like, oh shit, okay, let's kind of get serious. there was a meme out there that kind of was funny. It's like, oh, you mean that meeting just had to be an email? And everything started turning more
Yeah.
towards working from home and emails and like very minimal personal contact because that's what we're forced to do, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like, damn, how much time were we spending in meetings and how much time were we spending doing stuff where we could have just been working or been more
Yeah.
efficient, right?
I could have gotten up. I mean, there's a give and take to everything. I noticed last week that I hadn't showered in like 4 days because I know, and I shouldn't even be admitting this, but like I was really jammed trying to get work done, and I'm waking up at 6, working out, logging on immediately, and I'm on there for like 9 hours,
Yeah.
and then I log off. I have 4 hours, whatever, and then for 4 days straight, I did that, and then like on a Thursday, I was like, what smells in my office? Like, oh shit, that's me.
Damn,
I'm
dude.
like, that's disgusting. Oh my God. Like you can see how that could, and that brings me to one thing is, from mariachis is physical fitness. For the first couple of weeks, I was getting a little fat. And then, now I'm like, I went on a very strict, like, not really a diet, but just like what goes down the hatch in the last 7 days has been very, very conservative. And I've been working out in between. Like, I'll do a meeting and then I'll log off and like, I'll do like 50 jumping jacks. And then
Yeah.
I'll come back to it and I'll do 20 push ups. And I'm like, all right, I need to keep my physical fitness. But there was a meme yesterday for mariachis on Facebook. It's like, who fits in their traje right now? Try on your trajes because, you
Yeah.
know,
The freaking
saliendo
botones
bien,
are,
might not come out.
the broches are all social distancing.
I know, right? It's like,
Yeah, it's six feet apart.
it's 6 feet apart, man. 6 metros.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and that's like you said. It's easy to just once you fall out of your routine, you can just say like "fuck it,"
Yeah.
and you just sit around and you just eat your normal meals or whatever, or you get bored and you just start eating and like or drinking, and there's no physical activity as part of your day anymore, because you're just at home.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, dude. I mean, going back to the same thing too. Like the first 2 weeks, I was like, whatever, just normal eating and stuff, and support your local businesses and buy food from the outside. And then after that, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of tired of eating out now. And I just bought like a crap load of spinach and like salads and stuff. And now's the time because you don't want to freaking get overweight doing
Yeah.
nothing.
Doing
It's like,
nothing. Yeah, man.
yeah. So it's like same thing too. Just trying to take care of yourself. Mainly stay healthy too, right? If this is all a whole immune system thing,
You gotta stay healthy.
you got
People
to stay
with
healthy. Yeah.
obesity. I mean, if you have so much mass that I've had pneumonia before. I've talked about it on the podcast already. Like, and I was really skinny. This happened in like 2015. Well, you
Yeah.
remember I was super skinny back in the day, right? I was like boom. That's how I
And
got. That's how I got Veronica because she's like, oh, that's a skinny guy. Maybe he'll stay skinny forever. Nope. Unfortunately not. But like when I got pneumonia, I was maybe 180 pounds, 185 pounds.
yeah.
I was really fit, and that shit took me out for 2 weeks. Like I don't give a shit how tough you think you are, man. If you're out there listening, you catch a pneumonia when you're young, that shit takes years off your life. Like there's no question that I don't have the same lung capacity I did when I was 27 years old as now I'm 33 years old. Like that took a toll.
And
And
it's
to
all
catch it
chain
when you're fat,
reaction, right? Like
yeah.
it deprives your body of oxygen, so like
Yeah.
all the organs that need oxygen automatically start
Start shutting
operating.
down.
Yeah, exactly, dude. So kind of a chain domino effect for
So
sure.
hopefully we see. We already heard of a musician in Phoenix that died last week. He wasn't a mariachi guy, but he was a salsa player,
Yeah.
and yeah, he passed away. And it's like shit. He wasn't that old, but that this music life, man, it catches up with you when there's no
Were,
virus.
were they still out doing gigs and stuff? Mhm.
I think he was still playing. I mean, in Phoenix, like the week that I went to LA, it was March 13th.
Yeah.
The weekend before, I played 10 hours. It was one of those weekends. And the week I came back, people were still playing.
People are
That
still playing.
they were still playing that next weekend. That was like March 18th, March 20th. There were still chambas going on. Like I saw them on Facebook, and people are already getting pissed. Like, hey, we just got told this week to go home and social distance, and I think he caught it there because he passed away in the last couple of weeks. And I was like, shit,
It
dude.
takes like 2 weeks, right? To the incubation period or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it can sneak up on you, and then some people like you don't feel anything.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is a weird thing, man. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but like those conspiracy theories on YouTube that they came out of a research lab,
Yeah, it
I don't put it past.
kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. They're finding genes from a bat, and then they're finding genes from HIV, and they're finding this and they're finding that. And I'm like,
Words, yeah.
these are PhDs that are making these claims. I mean, we both have been through academia. As engineers, you don't make any kind of claim that will put your reputation at risk, like ever,
Yeah, exactly.
unless you have solid, clad evidence that, hey, this is what's supporting me saying some crazy shit right now.
Yeah.
And even if I have even people like physicists, we know that throughout history, physicists that have data information, they've not wanted to disclose it because that puts their reputation at risk, right? They have a theory that's not testable, but the mathematics check out. They go public with it, they get ridiculed, right? Because that's what academia is.
Yeah.
So when I hear people who have PhDs on the line and their reputation as authorities to make income and they say some shit like that, I'm like, maybe they're a crackpot, but I don't know any person who's been through a graduate program that would put their reputation on the line for no reason.
Yeah, dude. It's
Yeah.
crazy, man. It's just, going back to what you're saying is there's still people gigging right now, and I'll see them on Snapchat, on Instagram and things like that. And
Hombre.
I'm like, damn, dude, are you serious? Like, people even as close to here in Tucson, I've seen people in Phoenix and LA and different spots. And I'm like, in a way, I mean, I see it from both ends, right? It's their way of living and they need a job. And it's like the same as me going to work in a way. Right?
Going
it's
to
like
the test lab, going to this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to work and I'm going to be in an area with a lot of somewhat controlled amount of people. And I am putting my health at risk and for a paycheck in a way.
Yeah.
Right. So same for the musicos that they're going to go get a gig and it's the one gig out of the whole month that they're going to land probably. And they need to make that $50 or however much they're making. So in a way, like, I don't blame them, but I also think it's kind of irresponsible. You're like, oh yeah, I'm young. If I get it, whatever, it's all heal or lo que sea, But it's like the people that you're going to potentially put at risk, you don't know if you pass it off to a compañero who lives at his nana or tata's house and then they get it because you guys decided to go do a champ. Like, I don't know. I just think about it like in that way. I'm not knocking on them because they need to make the money and I'm doing the same thing per se, just at work, but at the same time too, it's like when I go to work, I wear a mask and I take every precaution, right?
Not to infect people, just in case you have the shit.
Yeah, exactly. I just do enough to get my job done and get the hell out of there so that I can, back to the safety of my own home per se.
Yeah.
And not be, potentially exposing myself or others to this, unknown, unseen virus kind of thing. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty interesting, man. And so as states open up, I'm kind of wondering how that's going to affect, like the mariachi scene in terms of gigs. And to be honest, I think it's going to change fundamentally how everybody does business.
Probably. Me and Miguel were talking yesterday on the podcast that he thinks that this is going to cause people to reevaluate their standards for, playability, people who play, right? So you might not carry people in a group anymore. So you may even have great players in a group and you might say, well, it comes down to like, Gordon Ramsay levels where it's like, well, this one was slightly undercooked, so that you got to go, right? You're both fantastic. Like he was talking about, like if you're playing in June and you can only have 5 people to a group, well, 2 people got to go. Like which 2 people? Like who do we need? Who do we not need? That's gonna be tough, man. I hope people have been practicing and getting on it, because there may come a time where groups are gonna make those tough decisions. It's like, fuck, hopefully not. But
yeah, it's gonna be intense, dude. The other aspect too is if clients even have money to pay, right? So like it might even be so that, yeah, you take 4 to 5 guys, but if they're all expecting $500, $50 an hour.
Yeah. They might not get it.
The client's like, yeah, we only have 250. Well, I guess that works out in that sense, but there might be instances, right, where people might have to drop their prices because the client can't afford, or the majority of clients, right? If you're used to doing a bunch of like home gigs and stuff like that, and normally you get 10 hours,
Yeah.
well, maybe you get 10 hours now, but it's like
$40 an
30,
hour,
30,
30.
35, you know? So it's like, what do you do? Do you just say no and stick to your guns and not get any work or very minimal work? Or do you lower your price because it's like supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
Your clientes want it, but they can't afford it at the full normal rate. So like, how do you compromise around that? And are you going to be stubborn and say, oh, well, if I get my $50 and I'll go, and if I don't, then
I'll
find
stay
somebody
home.
else?
I'll stay
Yeah,
home, starve.
you know, exactly. Yeah, and it becomes a situation where it's like, yeah, dude, that's pretty much the only gigs you're gonna have, because I don't think the abundance of gigs is coming anytime soon.
No. Hopefully, I'm hopeful it does. I would like to get back on it and start playing more, start doing more stuff. But yeah, the likelihood of it happening is we're pretty much just taking whatever we can get. We're going day by day, doing the best we can right now. You know, at least we're not, frontline workers. I mean, that's who I really feel bad for. Like I've had this thought a few times, but knowing me, knowing my personality, it's kind of like a really soft. It's a very uncharacteristic thing. Like I've had the thought of, what if we started doing things, either pro bono for people who want it, like hospitals. Like what if like I saw a video of people playing mariachis playing in the fields for guys that are picking.
Yeah, I think that was really cool, man. Yeah,
I've had that idea, like what if we started recording songs and dedicating those to nurses, to doctors, something. The whole point of mariachi music is to bring alegria, to bring, this joy and happiness. And people who don't even fucking speak Spanish, they go to the gaslight every quarter.
yeah,
They don't even speak the language, but they just want to hear the music. And it's like, I had this thought of, what if some of us started doing things and sending those to people that we know, dedicating like, bolero music or ranchera music to these people and saying, hey, we can't do anything for you. We can't give you masks. We can't give you more money. We can't take away patients, but here's what we got. And
yeah.
it's for you, you know,
Right.
very
That's why
uncharacteristic.
when I see musicos like going live and stuff, like Martin, for example, he goes on live on Fridays. And so I
Yeah.
think that's cool, because it's like, yeah, he's not doing it because he needs he needs the money, for people to start Venmoing him. It's like at first when he started, he just playing music because it's something that he feels, and it's like a release, right, for him. He's like, man, I
Yeah.
need to play for somebody, and I need to complete a request, and do just get this music out of my body and out into the world, and so he starts going live, and other musicals start going live, and it's kind of cool because a lot of
Yeah.
people are missing that, right? It's the closest thing you'd have to that kind of interaction at a gig or at a restaurant or things like that. So, and they're not, a lot of them aren't doing it for the money. I mean, money might come out of it, as a tip or something like that, but that's not the primary focus. And they're just doing it because it relieves them of some sort of stress maybe they're having, or they just want to jam, right? Play and jam and do some
Well,
songs.
like the Gallegos on Sunday, I watched a lot
Yeah,
of their video and I'm like, man, when the Gallegos are playing, that shit just reminds me of growing up in Tucson. That just
yeah.
reminds me of being like one of those dudes in chongos where like, fuck, I want to be one of them someday. I want to be that good someday. You know what I mean?
That was badass, huh? Freaking Gallegos, dude. That's
Yeah,
so,
man.
so awesome to hear them playing.
So that's one thing you could do. That's one thing that I'm upset about is I wish we could get tested so that, okay, maybe the guys in Phoenix, we can all get a test, hopefully inexpensively, and say, okay, we're all not, we're not contagious. We don't have it. And so we could come together and have a little jam, or maybe even just wear a mask, have a little jam, and
Yeah,
start bringing the community back more than I need to get paid. I need money. It's like, well, good for you. We're all, hey, I'm getting a little skinny, not because I want to, but because I have to, right?
yeah.
That would be
Everybody's
cool to
losing
do.
out.
More better than, like, Zoom is cool. I think this is obviously like opening up an avenue, right? But like there's nothing quite like having people present. Like you need that, like there's something about that energy of having someone in the room, and it's like, okay, here's that. But then it's dangerous as fuck right now. You can't even really do it.
Yeah, exactly. And like
But
going back to, it's like it's showing the flaws of everything, right? In this case, mariachi, right? If people are just willing to do it only because it provides work, It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't be doing it
Yeah. Maybe
because
you're not the best ambassador of our art.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, and you're not willing to get any better. So, I mean, maybe go find a job or something. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
you shouldn't be playing and you show up to gigs expecting $50 or whatever, and you're the worst player and the worst singer.
Oh,
You know.
man.
So in a way, it's kind of like I feel like it's like the purge of a lot of things, right?
I hope so. I hope it's one of those things where in a positive way, it's like, hey, you're not a musician. That's okay. You're a hobbyist. You're doing it for money. I get it. But this whole thing has taught us that there are levels and we all fit in those levels and we're all trying to get better. We're all going for first chair. But while I'm in third chair, I'm third chair. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care. I don't
Or
care.
doing it
This
or doing it for the happiness of others, right? Like you're
happiness, that's
right.
what's uncharacteristic. Yeah.
If you go back to the really the fundamentals of mariachi music, right? It's música del pueblo. It's to make people happy and to bring alegría to their fiesta,
Yeah.
and so it's like if you're not even thinking about that in any remote part of your mind while you're playing, yeah, that's it's probably not for you, man. And you're over here making your whole life based around this. Like that's kind of a oxymoron kind of thing in a
A
way.
little
It's
bit.
like I don't know. In a way, I feel bad for people, but in a way, I feel like, hey, man, maybe this was the wake up call you needed, and so
Shake you out of it.
yeah,
Yeah, this thought first came to me like a few weeks ago when I was driving back from the store and I was passing the gun store that's near my house, and I see a line of people at the gun store who obviously probably never bought a gun in their life, right? They're terrified. And then my wife was going to her shift or to her work, and I'm like, man, it'd be nice if I could, like, if I was someone like Martin. I'm not. Martin can have like 6 instruments going and he can sing every song. He's a fucking human jukebox, right? And there's a lot of guys like that.
yeah,
And I was like, man, I wish I was at his level so that I could do something that was quality and good and say, this is for people in that profession, you know?
yeah,
And there's such a catalog of music. I'm sure we could find a set of songs that are relatable to people who are working front lines at the hospital. We all know a bunch of girls and a bunch of guys that grew up in our neighborhood and they went off to nursing school and they're working in the hospitals right now. Like, imagine
yeah, dude.
just some serenata that says, hey, we feel your pain and here, this
Or
is
even
what
to
we
get
want to
back
give you.
home after like a long day of dealing with all that, and just to kind of hang out, relax, and not hear the news for once, right? All the
Right.
negativity and all the horrid stuff that you hear, right? It's like shit, man. The fucking world is gonna burn up right before my eyes, and that's really what the news is just saying, right? It's that, and then the injection of politics and a whole bunch of stuff, and you're just like, yeah, I just want to jump on and hear some good music, and have
Yeah.
a drink and just chill, man. Not even just block out the world, and so. And that's what I found, to be my therapy in a way too. Just sit down with some instruments and jam out and see if I can put a video together or recording or do something that makes me feel like I'm doing something good,
So
and being productive. And
it is that the project you're working on now?
what the what the
I
product?
saw the recording that you and Johnny did and then that Walter did of La Bikina.
Oh yeah, so that was kind of interesting. Yeah, that came out of like nowhere too. So we play this. There's this guy here in town. He's a luthier, Steven Stratton.
Mm-hmm.
And so we play this concert series every year for him. This would have been the second year, and it's called Get Down Guitar Festival. Well, not Guitar Festival, but it's Get Down, right? GUIT down.
Right. Yeah.
And so he hired us last year to play, and we've been good friends. And he repairs a lot of the mariachi instruments here in town, and he has a lot of influence in the music community here in town. And this year he's like, hey, I want to reach out to you guys to see if you guys can put together some kind of video for me because I want to do this music series but digitally. And so I had never done a video like that before at all. I recorded myself, and just to hear myself play back, and you don't get the chance to hear yourself pretty much ever, right? You're just kind of jamming out and doing your thing.
Right.
So yeah, we put together a video, and then that's where I started playing around with the video editing, and I started seeing people, put these videos together where there's like 30 dudes and they're all playing together, and I was like, damn, that's pretty awesome. So I told Johnny, well, because he was going to do a video and I was going to do a separate video. I told him, well, maybe when we put one together, we can, get something cool out of it, and so we did that, and And so Johnny and I did the Bikina for him for the guitar series, Stratting Guitars. He's on Instagram. And then after that, since I had the video already there, I told Walter, hey dude, like throw something on, add a little trumpet touch to it.
Yeah.
And then at the same time too, I was just like messaging back and forth with Mr. Carranza.
Yeah,
that
was cool.
Hey, I saw him, his kind of therapy too, from what I've seen on his Facebook and Instagram is, he has a busy ass day at work, and he's, managing the it's like the nation's largest school district through all this crisis.
Yeah, he's in New York right now, right?
In New York, yeah. And then
so
he goes home. Yeah, he goes home and he's posting stuff about making Sonoran type food and playing sones, and it's kind of cool, it's the very Tucson-ish kind of vibe where that's what you do for stress relaxation kind of thing. And so I noticed that he was playing his guitarron, and I reached out to him, hey, you want to do a video? And I'll send you the video as a pista, and just follow it, and I'll just like drop you into the video and figure it out, it'll be cool. And so yeah, that was kind of where I started with the videos, and I'm like, it's cool because it makes you think strategically. It's like if you have this concept in your mind, how are you going to bring all the puzzle pieces together at the end, but how are you going to get them up front, right, to make it work for you?
Right.
So yeah, we just kind of been doing stuff like that. And Marcus too, I don't know if you know Marcus Durazo. He's one of the Pueblo graduates from last year, and he's going to Berkeley now. Yeah.
Whoa, okay, so, serious.
Yeah, dude, he's a badass. Yeah. And so he's back here. He came back in town after Boston closed down, and he reached out to me because he was applying for a scholarship, something to do with the Latin Grammys or something like that. And he's like, hey dude, can you put together a armonía track of El Diablo Suelto, and I want to do the violin parts, and we'll submit that. So then I started playing around. I downloaded Logic, right? Because Logic has this cool like 90-day free trial right now. I guess for people that encerrados, and they have nothing to do and they want to record. They have a potential to get a customer 3 months from now. And so so I downloaded it and started playing around with some microphones and stuff that I had here. So going back to the process, right? I learned such pretty decent process, I guess, and put some tracks together. And he put a video and he sent it out. So now that's kind of one of my projects now, is I want to kind of build off that Diablo Suelto video and see what can come of it. And, I mean, in a way, going back to not having somebody in the room, it's a different thing, but right. I mean, you have to do the next best thing. So for me, it's like either playing along with the recording because you don't know it that well. And so it's kind of fun to keep your ears perked to like pegarte with the recording, or the same with the person, right? You have somebody that you're following in a video, and you're having to study their movement and their nuances of playing so that you can be right with them. Yeah. And so all that's noticeable when you put it together in a video, and then you match up the audios and everything, and you're like, damn, it's kind of like the next thing to recording or to playing together.
Right. It's basically what you do when you're doing multi-track recording and editing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I've just been playing with different processes like that and trying to just layer stuff as best as I could. And yeah, I don't know, it's been cool. I find it fun to figure out that puzzle, that whole process. And before you know it, you're 4 days in without taking a shower, like you said.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man, you're just like, what smells in my office? I'm like, did I throw away I threw away that food carton of that burrito, right? And I'm like, oh, hombre, that's me. Yeah. You're just locked in your office all this time. I'm just like, dang, it's not exactly the most healthy thing in the world, but you gotta have a balance, right? You gotta figure that out.
Yeah. So that's been my therapy as far as like projects and trying to figure out ways to piece together different instruments I have here at home and make something cool out of it.
Nice. Very nice. Well, damn, dude. So I just read today that the executive order for Ducey has been extended to May 15th.
Yep.
So that means, still, if our compañeros are out there playing this weekend, man, just be careful. Because, I mean, I don't know if they're enforcing those rules, but when you look at those rules, man, like social gatherings and mariachis and shit like that, that's very strictly prohibited. I'm just like, yeah, that really sucks. Maybe someone should contact Ducey's office and say, hey, maybe we should offer this sort of thing as a social distancing thing for people who want to go out and give serenatas. Like, hey, man, this keeps people from fucking committing suicide, from having domestic problems. Like, yeah, you can have the hardest gangster. And I've seen this stuff, man. We've all played for cartel families at one point or another in Tucson, right? You can have, I've been to one. Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Rio Rico, man. Holy shit. you can have the hardest gangster, right? But you play Paloma Negra and it reminds them of his mother. Shit, dude. There's like he's your best friend. Like he's like nothing, right? And so
Yeah.
it's very similar. It's like if you could have mariachis working where it's like, okay, we have some sort of protocol for keeping people safe relatively if you want to be out there, and if people do want to pay for it, or if not, or if people want to do charity work and donate and go to
Yeah.
a hospital, go here, and not just like the stereotypical thing where most people think, oh, mariachi, that's so annoying. Like, no, you have real players that have
Yeah.
real desire to just perform for an audience that we fuck the money. We need to have that feedback.
Yeah. Well, and it's an opportunity too, kind of to reverse the stigma, right? The
Yes.
stereotype, right? Is like, oh, these guys aren't just like leeches of parties that show up to cobrar and take off,
Right.
take off with all your beer. They're actually
Yeah.
people that are giving back, right? It's a good way to put a positive light on a traditional art form, right? And in this case, mariachi, it's like, okay, cool, like go give back to the community. You go play a serenata for the nurses or for the doctors and the police department, you know, things like that. I think I think it's important to go back to that, you know, fundamental, and it's music for the people, right?
Yeah.
If your only criteria to go out and do gigs and put people's health at risk is so you can make $50, yeah, that's not the way to go about this thing, man.
No,
I'm sorry.
man. That's tough. So for your group, we haven't talked about this. I mean, last time you were on the podcast was, I think it was like a year ago. But
Yeah.
since then, you started a formal mariachi group in Tucson. Was it Mariachi Tesoro de Tucson?
Yeah. So we pieced it together, huh? With I mean, it's really a combination of a bunch of people, right? The group was existent, I think, since 2006 when it was under Jaime, and then
Right.
everybody kind
I
of
used
went
to,
to high school,
I
and
thought it was a kid group back in the day. And I was like, man, was
yeah,
it the same group?
it was part of the whole like it was what is it? Tesoro, Corazon, and I think Milagro, and they were the same three groups that would just kind of cycle through, and as one got older, then it would start all over again with younger kids, and the next one would go up, and just kind of like that waterfall cycle, right? And
Ah,
so yeah, I guess what happened is, you know, these guys went through high school. They did whatever they did. They went to high, and then the group kind of just like, I don't know, not fall apart, but everybody kind of went their own ways and did their own things with different groups, right?
right.
And so yeah, I mean, we essentially got together and we brought it back. You know, a combination of talking with Conrad and David and Araceli and Ariana, and so it's like, all right, cool, let's put this project together and let's figure out the best way for all of us to use our talents, not only just music, but organization and business management and things like that, and booking gigs and personal relationships. And let's build something that we're truly invested in as a group, and as not only just players in a group, but as kind of like pushing this thing forward, you know, and something that you're proud of is your own personal project, not
Yeah.
following somebody else's idea or somebody else's vision for what you should be doing. It's kind of like our group, right? Run by us, led by us, played by us, and that's kind of the philosophy behind it. And so yeah, I mean, it's proven to be pretty good. You know, everybody's pretty comfortable playing, and we just, you know, just like you, right? We want to sound the best we can, and we put some hours into practicing, and we all work, you know. So it's like, yeah, you got to be realistic with the expectation and not assume that you're going to sound like Camperos or Sol or Vargas.
Right.
But I mean, if you do it within a certain time constraint, and you know that you're doing the best you can, and it's enjoyable on top of that, you know, it's like, cool, like you have nothing to lose, and you're getting work out of it, you're getting shows out of it, you're having a good time with compañeros, you get trips out of it. So I think with that mindset, you know, a lot of good things fall on top of working fundamentally in a positive manner, you know, in that sense.
Yeah, because I heard one of your guys' rehearsals on Facebook, and I was like, wow, that's really well put together, like for just a
Oh,
practice. And I
yeah.
was like, I saw, was it Gil and then Johnny and you guys, and like, you guys got some serious ringers in the group. You got Walter, you got Conrad, I saw
Yeah,
David in there, and I was like, oh shit,
a lot of
okay.
experience. Yeah, a lot of experience, a lot of unique things that people bring to the table, you know, and that's I think that's been a really important part of the groups, you know. I guess this new generation's been around for about a year. It would have been, yeah, in January. And so yeah, I mean, we just kind of trying to push forward and utilize people's skills, right? So that we're not micromanaging thing, but we're giving opportunities to for people to step up to the plate and really own some sort of process, whether it's being a social media person, whether it's being the person who puts videos together, whether it's the person booking gigs, there's a lot of aspects to running a group,
Right.
which I'm sure you're aware of. And so,
yeah, it usually falls on the director, and the director gets overwhelmed.
yeah, exactly. Right. And it's like, at that point, you can't really do a good job at everything because you're stretched so thin, and then it really becomes a thing of, oh, so then why are you making more money and this and that? It's like, no, if you give everybody the opportunity to do equal amount of work, like I feel you spread out the work, and everybody has that one focus, right? As opposed to one person having 10 focuses and just doing horrible at all of them.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's no justification for somebody to get paid more than the other because they're doing more, but they're really doing less. And it's just like, no, just stay at equal. We're super transparent about it. As long as everybody pulls their weight musically and shows up to practices and things like that, then I think we're in a good spot to not be on people's asses or on their throats for not putting in the same amount of time or investment. It's like, give everybody something they're good at doing, let them run with it, and then give them the trust that they're doing it with good intentions, and it'll all pile back on into this big project that, is working out pretty decent.
Seems like it is. I mean, I saw you guys post, like, you did some shows in the last year. Like, you did some backing up, and like you had some pretty high profile gigs. It's like, how are you guys going about preparing for those? I mean, being in a show group, you usually have a lot of, okay, this is polish and, a lot of rehearsals and lead time. Unfortunately, sometimes you get in groups where you're doing a ton of catch-up work and you're doing like fucking 5 rehearsals a week. You're like, my God, this many rehearsals are not going to cover for people not practicing.
It's unsustainable. And then when you add up all the time, it's like, damn, I only made $150 for 30 hours of work. It doesn't make sense. Even if you're coming from a professional like job, right, where it's like, damn, you bust your ass all day and then you still got to go to rehearsal 5 days out of the week, and it's like,
just to meet this whole thing.
Yeah, and it's like, from the front end, it's like, why did you even book it if you didn't even know? If you don't even know, you should be able to have an estimate of what's realistic for a group within a time expectation and what's not, right? Yeah. So if you don't, and you're just throwing your group to the fire, you're either going to piss a lot of people off, or you're going to overwork yourself and just piss yourself off.
Right.
So a lot of, going back to what you said, is like, yeah, we landed some high profile gigs, and a lot of it was just through relationships, right? I think it's important to, as if you're part of a group, it's not just expect, going back to the whole paradigm, right, of mariachis just sit back and they want work just to land in their lap without doing anything because the jefe is doing everything. Right. But they go back and complain because the jefe is the one giving them work, but he's charging more than everybody else and he's making more money. And it's like, well, that kind of also makes sense too, right? So I think being an elemento in a group, it's like you should focus and prepare yourself so that you're a standalone entity too, not just you're just not a, Vihuela player for X amount of years for so-and-so group. And then the moment you leave, everybody forgets about you.
Right. So there's that one guy that used to play in that one group. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So going back to like the relationships, it's like we've got a lot of work because of our own personal relationships, right? It's just, we know people from over the years of work and the conferences and different events that we played at. And so they're like, hey, well, we want to try you guys out and this and that. I go, okay, cool. Like, let's do it. You've seen our work before in a different context, but for the most part, you've seen us pull off some cool things, and so I think we can do it again. And I'm not gonna put smoke over your face and tell you that we can do it, knowing that we're not capable of. So
that's a tall order, bro. You want me to write and practice 30 songs?
So one of the biggest things, I don't know if you remember Santiago Espinosa.
Yeah.
So he grew up with Walter, right, in Española, New Mexico, and he kind of with us did the conference scene for many years, since probably 2002, 2003, and moved out to LA. So what we didn't know this whole time was that he was very close to Juan Gabriel. Like his dad was his recording engineer.
Oh shit!
Santa Fe. Yeah.
I also thought he was just a nice kid playing vihuela. I'm just like,
yeah. So Walter, had some growing up experiences, and I think he went to like Juanga's ranch a couple of times and things like that in Santa Fe. And so Santi, we've always kept in touch with him, and just a good friend, that we never really lose touch. We go a couple of weeks without talking to each other, but we just pick up like normal, just like you and I, right? We can talk, and it doesn't feel like I haven't spoken with you for a couple months or anything. It's just like, hey, cool, man, what's up? Shoot the shit, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he calls us up out of nowhere, and he's like, hey, dude, so I'm trying out this thing, and I want to do like the solo route. And so we got this gig in Santa Fe at the Opera House, and we want you guys to back me up. And, you know, I was like, oh, shit, that's a pretty tall order, dude. Let me talk with the group and see if we're willing to do multiple rehearsals a week to land. Because it was really like, I think like 30 to 35 songs, brand new, dude. Brand new versions of songs that he wrote out, all the music, plus recordings. And so, and on top of that, he wanted us to do choreography and do some like dancing things. And he wanted to make it like a Juanga show, right? Where he's like, and that's cool, man. I respect that, because his idea was, I don't want it to be the normal mariachi show where mariachi gets up for 45 minutes, plays their songs, talks twice to the audience, and they go, that's it, right? You might as well just throw a CD on and you can hear the same thing.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, I want it to be interactive, and I want to talk with the crowd, and I want it to be a nice visual. So then the other aspect of it was like, okay, so how's like the management of the gig, or who's doing what? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to have Juan Gabriel's management team do the whole, they're going to do the contract with you. The manager's going to be there. There's going to be wireless sound.
Some professionals.
Yeah, straight up, dude. You know, we get there, and Juan Gabriel's manager and musical director were there. The musical director played with us. And so there was a lot of expectation. Yeah. So, and that's what I told the group right off the bat. You know, it's like, this is not your just normal, this isn't playing at the conference. You know, this is like preparing for people that have had their whole career touring with Juan Gabriel. They expect high energy and high performance and high professionalism and a lot of the stuff, you know, it's like, they're not here to bullshit, right? And we're going to get paid like pros. So we got to prepare like pros, and everything has to be pro about this, right?
Yeah.
So at that time, we didn't even have trajes. We didn't have nothing, dude. We're just black suit. And it was kind of an opportunity that was thrown at us too early than what we were prepared for.
Yeah.
But it's like, shit. All right, the carrots they're dangling. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna take it or not? Yeah. And so yeah, we talked about it. You know, like, all right, well, can we do this musically? All right, fuck it. Yeah, we can. Let's do it. Let's bring on some people, and we get a pretty solid group going. What about trajes? All right, let's order some trajes. Chingue su madre. So we fucking, you know, mobilized real quick, and we had those brown suits made in Guadalajara. And so, you know, yeah, essentially, you know, from the business aspect, it's like we have to go. We played some gigs at Brother John's as a fundraiser. We sold tequila bottles. We raised some money. We pulled some money out of our own gigs. You know, some people have to front money for others and things like that. And so it was really a sacrifice, right? But it was a sacrifice that was worth it at the end, because we got good exposure. It's a good first starting bullet on a resume.
Oh, yeah. That's a great venue, that Opera House. We played there when we were changos. We opened up for Mujer Dos Mil back in the day.
It's beautiful, dude. Yeah.
Oh, man, like I still remember sitting in the bleachers and seeing all the stage and all the lights, and we were watching Mujer play from the stands, and we were just on that thing.
Yeah.
Like that was us. Like that was badass. I remember that whole thing.
It's a beautiful, yeah, it's very prestigious. And on top of that, Noberta Fresquez was there, which is the director for the Albuquerque conference too. Long friend of mine for a couple of years. And she's really the one who kind of catapulted me into the whole mariachi conference scene as a teacher and things like that. So that was kind of nerve-wracking too, right? You don't want to show up with a half-assed group and just like kind of weaseling your way out. It's like, no, like, got to show up. And they were flying us out, dude. So we went, you know, everything out, dude. Full traje, freaking from the ground up, all the way sombreros, like everything, dude. It was pretty awesome. And chingos of practice, and you know, to the point where it's like, oh man, we're so frustrated with each other. But
so how did you manage that dynamic, right? Because you got some legitimate players in your group, right? But you still got people.
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed. It's interesting, right? There's people that have done the pro scene. You have the guys like David Gill that have done, you know, Sol de Mexico kind of type gigs, and you got guys like Johnny Contreras that have gone all over the world. Guys like Walter that play super well. People like us that came out of the community kids groups, some more conference oriented. So it was really like a people management thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how do we get everybody on the same page, and everybody that has multiple different experiences how do we help each other in a way? So
how did it go opening night? First song, first set. Like how were the nerves backstage?
Dude, the first song was crazy, man. It was a first, like, I think the intro the intro of it was it wasn't, it was playback, but it wasn't mariachi playback. It had like some thunder effects, and it was supposed to be like Juanga style, right? It was like there was
Ah,
like flashing lights
yeah,
to mimic
like the little
thunder.
rain stick, like.
Yeah, haz de cuenta, dude. It was crazy like that, and so it was like it was meant to provide some kind of like environmental like thunderstorm thing, right? And so we're hearing it in our ears, but there's also a click. There's also click. It's matched to a click track. So you got to be
Oh,
counting the measures in your head because
oh
all of a
man,
sudden,
yeah.
boom, the music comes in, and you got to be right on.
Be ready to
So that,
play.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So there's
shit.
like a little like drum part that leads up to it, and then it's crazy, dude. And so all that had to be rehearsed, man. And so that was kind of one of those instances where it's like, shit, you either get it right or you don't. And
Oh, God, that's the worst. If you fuck that up.
yeah, and that's the first song. Everything's like downhill, dude.
Oh, everyone just has that like, like they're trying to
Yeah,
be a professional. You can see it on their face, like trying to go
yeah,
through
dude.
it. And you're like, oh man, I messed that whole thing up. What happened?
So it was
So
cool. I
I'm
mean,
assuming it went well though for you guys.
yeah, it was good. And okay, so the other pressure was that it was going to be recorded live, video and sound, and they were going to make
Oh,
a video post production after that.
like Intocable type shit, right? Like the
Yeah,
in
because he was going to
vivo.
use, since Santiago was like still kind of new on the scene, he was going to use that as like promo for him.
Oh
So the
man.
sound had to be good. We had to look like we're having a fun time, and so like everything was on the table, right? You can't just be the normal mariachi show wouldn't have worked there
Oh,
at all, right? You have to look alegre, and so it was kind of cool because after that, like the tension was off, but not in a deconstructive way where it's just like you're just autopiloting everything. Like there was it was probably one of the most tiring shows I've ever done because you have to focus so much on it, and so
but
I mean
that's when
that's
you're really in the moment.
yeah, exactly,
Like
and so
you're living in the very few times in your life do you actually get to live in that moment. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
and so it was interesting because as I would look around, there was certain spots of time where like I would tension would be released. And I'm like, all right, let me see what's going on, and kind of look around, and I look around at Conrad, and he's dancing. Conrad,
Right.
he gets all Conrad, and he likes to do his funny stuff, and so he's having a good time, and he's dancing and stuff, and the violins are up there doing their thing, and they're smiling, and I'm like, cool, like I want everybody to have fun, and after all those hours, it was really shit. It was about 2.5 months to 3 months of rehearsals, twice, 3 times a week, almost.
Damn, that's commitment.
I mean, it was a
Well, that's how
long
you
haul.
develop trust, right? Those are now you guys went through that experience, so now it's like, well, like when you pledge your fraternity, when you join the military, when you go through any initiation, it's like, hey,
Yeah,
we went through some shit. We're, no
exactly.
matter
Yeah,
what happens from now on.
the struggle, right, of putting something pretty badass that's requiring a lot of work from you. And so, yeah, exactly. You hold everybody accountable, right? Like, hey, you didn't go to practice, but I went to all of them, or things like that.
Yeah,
Luckily, we didn't have those problems, but it becomes like a thing of holding people accountable, and you got to show up to rehearsal ready to move this thing forward, not take
ready
three
to
steps
play.
back.
That is the worst feeling when you have spent time, especially after work. I'm like, okay, I just worked 10 hours. All right, let's break out the metronome. Let's get the music out. Like, I played for Mariachi Tapatio for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. How many
And
years was
like,
that? How many
oh,
years?
dude, like fucking 9 years.
Yeah,
I think nine. I can't even. It doesn't feel like it. Like I can't even believe it was 9 years that I played with them as their main armonia player. But for a little while toward the end there, I was doing engineering school. I was working, getting married, so much stuff going on, like life shit, right? And one of the things that I always like, Beto and Louis for me will always be like family. And one of the things is we developed a relationship where it's like, I can't go to every rehearsal. I can't go to every gig. I can't do this. But if you write whatever you want me to play, I will play it and exactly how you write it. And the
yeah,
day that I show up, it'll be 100%. Right. And so we had this kind of little side thing. Right.
yeah.
So
Trust,
the
right? Yeah,
trust, like real trust, right? And so and I could see it in Beto's face. He was like, all right, I know you have the chops for it, but man, you could see he's been burned before, when people try to do this. And so right before my wedding, we had the gaslight coming up or something along those lines. So our bass player was also out of town. So I had to at the last minute not only learn the guitar parts, the vihuela parts, just because I do it, but then also the bass parts. And so we had a rehearsal the weekend before my wedding, and I'm at like fucking level 10 stress. Like, don't talk to
Yeah.
me. They
Let's just
show
get
up at my
done.
house. Yeah, get in here, get the hell out after we're done. And so we showed up, and I'm like in the worst mood ever. And then our bass player couldn't be there, so I was like, and so we had a moment where Beto just looks at me for a second. He's just like, "You got the bass parts?" And I'm like, I pull out the guitarron. I'm like, "Let's go." And I was just like, I just did it. It was like nothing. And there's been a couple times like that. And so, yeah, you have to have that personal accountability. And there's nothing worse than where it's like after everything that you do in your day and you still come through with the music and one of your compañeros shows up and it's like, he's pulling up the music on his phone. He's still looking at it. You're like, what's going on here, man? It's like that's the worst feeling.
Yeah. Well, it becomes a waste of time there, right? It's just like shit.
I could have not done
You had,
this.
yeah, you obviously had a lot less things to do than I did, and I still got it done.
And you didn't.
What? Yeah, what were you doing? Yeah,
There
exactly.
are those occasions where you look over and like the person's right on. And you're like, oh, thank God you practiced too. All right, good. All right, this is going to be a good set. And like that relief, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like that's
yeah.
a relieving feeling, and then it sounds good. And then you're like, okay, good. And then you go on stage and it's boom, it's
Like
flawless.
butter. Yeah, it's fun, right? At that point, it's just like, all right, cool. I don't have to worry about anything, and so that ideally, that's kind of the sensation and the feeling that we got with that gig is we had practiced this thing to the ground so many times that it was able to be fun at that point, which a lot of people hadn't gotten to that point. They've never practiced things so much to the point where it's like, cool, we could just like relax on stage because this is already in our fingers and this is already right. You don't have to be all tensed up, and you can enjoy the moment. And I think that's a special thing in a concert setting that not a lot of people get to experience because they're never challenged that much, or they never decide to push themselves that far to learn something so well that at the point of execution, you're just like, damn, that was fun. And I saw that guy or chick smile in the front, and I'm like, I feel good about it. The whole process.
Yeah.
You incorporate the human element into that at that point, right? You're just not tense. You're just like, man, I hope I don't fuck this up, and it becomes a tense situation where it's like, no, dude, why are you in this for? You're in it to have a good time and to make other people have a good time listening to you, not to show up and not look anybody in the eye and be freaked out because your solo might suck. It's like, maybe you shouldn't be on the stage at that point.
Yeah, no, those are the tough ones, right? That's where it's like all of that should have been dealt with a long time long before you got in the car to come to the theater.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, too, it's like I think it's important for people whoever are obligating the group to do some sort of work, right? You got to make sure that your group's on board with it, right? And they're able they're capable of doing it, right? Because there's been so many times that I've seen people raise their hand for all these like opportunities, but they're not ready for it. It's going to be a disaster, and it's just like, why'd you even throw your name in the hat? You're gonna piss off you're gonna piss off everybody, and it's gonna be a horrible job. So like, I think it's important to be realistic with yourself, and especially like you said, a lot of us are now we're not full-time musicos, right? A lot of us have jobs. There's people that are parents. There's people that are married, engaged. Like everybody's having like a more, I guess, more in line with civilization kind of roles in their life, right? Because look at it now, right? It's almost impossible to live straight up right off of just mariachi or music. It's a really tough lifestyle where if something were to happen, you probably can't afford to live past a month without pay.
Right.
And so with that said, it's like people are going to school and they're preparing for the future, right? To have a más o menos kind of normal life, but they want to keep mariachi in their life, right? And so there's groups like Tapatio that exist and us, and there's multiple groups around town that you can't expect to sound like a pro, but you can't want to charge like a pro either and show up not knowing half your shit, right?
Yeah, it's bad.
It all has to be proportional to each other, and if not, you're not doing the name mariachi a favor, right?
Right.
At all. You're just kind of letting everybody just slide through the cracks, and the same shit you complain about is exactly what you're doing on a different kind of scale.
It's a big wake-up call. I think this month of no playing, I can only hope that people are taking the advice and looking at themselves in the mirror. I look at myself in the mirror a couple of days, not just for music, but like, I'm like, am I really Am I really cutting it in my profession, in my work, in my job? Am I staying on top of earned value? Am I staying on top of my schedule? Am I coordinating with this person, that person? Am I making sure this is done? You know, it's a constant. Come on now, you know. I just
Yeah.
recently did that Cascabel guitar tutorial, and I decided to do it classically because I'm like, yeah, you can get a pick and just do the trebles. That's easy.
Oh yeah, you're
Any
doing
high school kid can do that.
it.
Yeah, but you want to do it classically and you want to play like how Juvenil Tecalican took it out way back in the day. You
Yeah,
know,
that
it's
was
like,
badass, dude.
all right, come on, get your nuts strapped on tight. And right
Yeah.
before I did that video, like I think I was practicing for a week in the office. As soon as I'd log off from the computer, I'd just take out the guitar, the Rosa right here, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this video and it's not gonna suck, and at least as best as I can. And I did it, and I was like, okay, cool. It didn't take me like 50 takes to do it either. I was like, all right, we got it, we got it done, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. But it's
So
good to work towards something, right? And to feel good about playing it when you're done. And you're like, oh yeah, dude, it's a good satisfaction
I think that's why
knowing
I
that
did it.
you worked your ass off to do it, and you could
Yeah,
do it one take or like not 50 takes.
right, and cut it and splice it, and like, oh well, little
Yeah,
bit by
why is he
bit.
wearing a different shirt? Like,
Yeah, I'm like, what? He has a beard now. By the end of the video, what the fuck happened? I
yeah,
think
dude.
that's probably why, because yeah, I haven't. So again, I don't want to keep you here all night, bro. I could talk to you fucking all day about
Yeah,
everything, but I know you got work. I got work tomorrow too. You know, that's one thing about me buying this guitar and just keeping my collection. You know, I have some really nice stuff, and you know, if tomorrow I got offered to do one of those Zoom things, or if I got offered to play for a group in the future, like I haven't been with a group for a long time. Like I think it's been a year since I've been committed to a group. I tried it in Phoenix. I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't do the commitment. I couldn't do the rehearsal. I couldn't play all the gigs. I'm just like, I'm just not, you
yeah.
know, they're trying to turn a hoe into a housewife with me. And I'm not, I'm just wasn't ready for it. But then
You're
I
too
think,
hoish. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, a little bit. Like most of the people know me. Like I've been a hoe for a long time. It's like the fact that I played with Tapatio for 9 years,
Ho for show.
hoe for show, man. And I guess you could say I was their hoe. I was like, hey, I'm Tapatio Armonia player. It's cool, whatever,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, doing this whole thing and then practicing and being alone, like I have to ask myself, I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? Like, what am I going
What
to
about
like?
with mariachi?
Yeah, like if I'm gonna continue playing, like I kind of ask myself, it's like, well, the next time I join a group, like how much commitment am I really gonna give? Like how much,
Yeah.
you know, like am I gonna make it my thing? And even if I get shit on or if other people are not treating it as serious as I'm treating it, it's like how am I going to, you know, just kind of live with it, be the example, right? So that's like my challenge now. And for you, last time we talked on the podcast, like one of your main goals was to be pushing yourself more towards being a world class player. You know, because those people do exist, man. You know, those classical guitarists, those trumpeters, those saxophone players, those guys. Like at my wedding, you know, we had Iram's band play. I was like, dude, everybody in that group, world
Mm.
class player. You're just like, dude, I'm not even like I'm paying them to be here. I'm not even worthy to be paying them.
Yeah. Bunch of badasses, right?
Bunch of badass dudes and the nicest dudes. I sang a song, a Tony Bennett song for my wife, and they're the Jason Carter, the trumpet player, most like humbling, like nice person, like cueing me in, timing me in, and all this stuff. And I'm just like, so like, you know, that's something I'm struggling with personally. Like, how are you feeling if that's still something that you're like, do you consider that like with your heart playing, with your musicianship, your show?
Yeah. In certain ways, I know that, just that I probably couldn't reach that just because I work and I do other stuff now on my plate. So I think I've come to the realization that that's not a really realistic expectation. At the
Yeah.
same time, though, I know that I can do some pretty cool stuff if I figure out the process and become efficient with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty confident in my abilities to play harp at a professional level still, and still have half the time that most professional people do. which is really sad to say in the sense because that just means they're not practicing enough.
Right. If you got 8 hours a day to practice your stroke, and I
Yeah,
got 4,
yeah,
like, ¿qué
exactly.
pasó?
So it's like, well, I mean, that's really what the reality of it is. And so, um, yeah, I'm just gonna strive to do the best that I can in my instrument and with the whole tesoro thing. And as long as it's fun for me and it's therapeutic in the sense that I get a sense of relief and I get to hang out with friends and compañeros that we're all on the same page, I think I'm more happy doing that for sure than attempting to reach the highest point of the ladder for being a harpist, or things like that. I think yeah, I now I've come to value that a lot more. Being in a space with people that have like minds, right, and want to do the same thing, and there's a good vibe, and uh and yeah, because even so let's say you do want to become the world's best mariachi or the best mariachi in Tucson or Phoenix or whatever. I mean, what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? You're not making a living for yourself because mariachi is kind of dead in the mainstream. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, you're kind of fighting an uphill battle because the music style is predestined at this particular point in time to not be so popular where you're making a crap load of money and a crap load of opportunities. It's more, for me, it's more of a thing of like just connecting back with your culture, and you create a family of friends kind of deal. And I think it feeds back into what makes me happy that I have a life like that. You know what I mean? It's more of a personal thing, and where it makes me feel complete as a professional, as a human being, as a musician, to have all that, right? To be in a group with people that think alike and that shoot high, but realistically high. All right, we're not pushing each other off the cliff saying, "Hey, you guys got to sound like this and that." It's like we know each other's limits, and I think that's important, right? Because otherwise, people are just going to say, "You know what? Screw this. I don't have time for this, all this drama, and for all these commitments and stuff. And I have a kid to raise, or I have this and that going on." And so,
Right.
you got to pick your battles, and so I honestly see that in a way that's kind of the future of mariachi, because a lot of people are going out and getting educated and getting jobs and having families and getting married, and the only way to keep that passion for mariachi ignited and still wanting to do it is by not being turned away from it, from all these unrealistic expectations that people are going to put upon you.
It's very
Right.
true. It's one of the
So
number one reasons why people quit is they set that bar too unrealistic for yourself, and it becomes not fun anymore.
they frustrate the shit out of themselves, yeah, because they can't play the same way they did when they played in high school, when they had 24 hours a day to practice. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah. Hopefully. Adrian, brother, I don't want to keep you here all night. We've probably been talking for what? About a good hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
This
Yeah.
thing hasn't crashed. I'm surprised that everything is still on.
Yeah. You have that unlimited Zoom?
Yeah, I guess I do. Well, you know what it is that so when I was reading through some of this stuff, I guess if you have more than 2 participants, then it becomes limited. Then you got to buy the
Oh,
whole
40-minute
package.
mark becomes, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess this works for now. So hey, man, if it comes out good, then who knows? Maybe I can do this with people across the country. That's always been the limitation, is I got to carry all this shit everywhere I go so I can do a decent podcast.
Yeah, dude. That was kind of the interesting going. I don't mean to cut you off or anything, but for the mariachi conference videos too, it's like we're able to reach out to people that otherwise wouldn't be able to come because of financial reasons, or their group isn't coming, or it's like, all right, just all you got to do is send in a video, and you can have literally anybody in the U.S., Mexico, anywhere send in a video, right? And so it's kind of cool because we were able to get some guys like Alvaro did a video from New York. Pepe, Vihuela player for Sol de Mexico, did a video out of LA. Adrian Baca from LA too. There's some guys here in town. Martin did it from Nogales. Robert Martinez did one from his office there here at home.
Oh man.
So it was kind of interesting, yeah, to get people that from Eddie did it from LA, yeah. Adolfo did one he did a couple of them from Lubbock, Texas, so going back to your podcast, right? You kind of have now a unique opportunity to reach out to people that otherwise you wouldn't be able to see on a more normal basis, because you got to lug your shit out there to go visit them, or
travel,
go inside at a particular event, right? So
that's why I haven't been able to do it with Roberto. Like Roberto wanted to do the podcast last year,
yeah,
and then it just wasn't feasible with either of our schedules. So I was like, so
Yeah.
it's good that he can do video. So I might text him again and say, hey, you want to do a Zoom podcast this time?
You know what, dude? Yeah, that'd be awesome, dude. Yeah, yeah. There's tons of people that I'm sure, right? We're all craving human interaction, and it's like there's no better time right now to have probably the biggest online audience you can have because everybody's cooped up in their homes and they're just devouring videos and information, and it's like they
Yeah,
want to
it's
get
crazy.
away from things that aren't the news.
Yeah, fuck the news right now. Yeah, my channel video views have gone up like a good 30% in the last month.
Yeah, dude.
I was just like, whoa, okay.
Now's a chance. Yeah, now's a chance to really understand for sure, like what people like in your format, or what they don't like, or what they want, right? Kind of deal. Because
I curse too much. That's my problem. But they say a lot of people curse a lot, so I'm like, or smart people curse a lot, so I'm like, I don't know if that's
yeah,
true or not, but we'll see.
it releases tension, man. I mean, look at the Joe Rogan podcast. That shit's funny, dude.
Dude, that's the best
Yeah,
part. I don't care what anyone says about Joe Rogan. Like
he's shit.
that is
Yeah,
the format, man. And he's a jujitsu guy too. Like he's the weirdest person in the world. Like he's from the East Coast, did taekwondo, fighter, comedian, actor, podcaster, and he can choke the shit out of you. It's like, all right.
yeah, dude. And he talks about like these subjects that are like super far and wide apart,
Right.
from one
I
end of
see.
the spectrum to like the whole, and like some legitimate ass dudes
Yeah.
or chicks.
Scientists,
Yeah,
politicians.
and he can keep up intellectually with them, and he's like, "Yeah, I just smoked the bowl right now," and it's like,
It's like
"Damn, this is
I'm
crazy."
high as fuck right now.
Yeah,
Like the faces that he makes, I'm just like, no
yeah.
wonder he's a comedian, man. He's hilarious.
And then he has like Bill Gates across the table and shit. You know?
It's like, man, well, he gets like 1 million views per
Yeah,
video and shit.
that's kind of been the interesting too thing about this is like, as people go live, it's really them in the raw form, right? You can't.
Yeah.
There's no editing. There's no nothing. It's like
This is
they're
you.
wherever they're at, and they're singing and playing and talking to people. And I think that's cool, man, to see a lot of raw forms of people, especially artists and musicians. You're like, damn, dude, these guys
Right.
can put a badass like set together. They sing badass or play badass. It's not prepared, or maybe it is, but I mean, it's still
I think
vulnerable.
the rawer you get, the closer you get. Like that's what I like to watch on YouTube is people that aren't like scripted and rehearsed.
Yeah,
Like, because how many times have you seen like someone in the public eye or like on an interview and like they seem like the most amicable, most amiable person, and you might get to know them behind the scenes and like they're fucking,
total opposite.
yeah,
Yeah,
like total opposite. You're like, Jesus, I thought you were a human being and you're not.
yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah, it's
It's like
interesting, man.
I'm like this 24/7. I'm a little more refined in certain situations versus others. When I'm in the office, I tend to not use so much foul language, right? Because people don't like to hear that shit. But on YouTube, it's hilarious. Even my own mother, she's like, every time you curse, it's hilarious. I'm like, I'm okay. What am I, a fourth grader? It's like, I'm using potty language. It's hilarious.
Keeping tabs on you, dude.
Yeah, my mom watches every episode. Hi, mom. Thank you. Thank you for
I
the
think she's cool.
opportunities. I know, and you've met my mom. My mom is like, she's the sweetest angel, but like, man, she's a gangster too, man. Like my nana también. She's a little petite woman, but man, she was born in Boyle Heights.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man. Come from a family of, yeah, like everybody. Brother, anything you want to get out there before we wrap this thing up? Again, I don't want to keep you here all night, man. I really appreciate
Ah,
you being on and talking
oh
and
yeah,
having
dude.
some interaction, man.
It's awesome, dude. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, and anytime you want, yes, that is just message away, and I'm down, man.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I would just tell people not to get so down and isolated. There's a lot of good things that can come out of isolation, and your talents should be the ones that are the beneficiaries of this time, right?
yeah.
Pick up a new skill, learn something new, find an old skill that you didn't know existed in you, and figure something, keep creating, and whether you think it sucks or not, I think as long as it makes you happy and keeps you sane, I think that's a win-win, man, because it kind of sucks, not being able to play with anybody or to practice with anybody or to kind of move projects that involve multiple people forward. But hey, man, you got to start with you and your instrument first before
Yeah.
you can be a contributor to a larger project.
Basics. Down to the basics.
Yeah, man.
We're
I
getting
mean, go
down to
out,
the
wear a
bone.
mask. Be safe, be healthy. Don't be a
Yeah, and be
stick,
healthy.
yeah. Don't be stupid and get other people fucking sick and shit.
Yeah, there you go. Adrian, brother, thank you again for taking the time. Really appreciate it. And you've been a good friend ever since I first met you back in the day at Las Cruces and teaching and fucking scotch. Oh my God.
Yeah, we gotta get together and have some scotch. I have a Glenlivet here too that I've been kind of just holding me out on.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to afford scotch for a very long time unless gigs really pick up. But you know, this Buffalo Trace stuff, I mean, if you're a whiskey drinker, this bourbon, it is quite good. I think it was like $30
Nice.
at Total Wine, and it tastes with a little bit of ice, a little bit of water. It's really good. So, you know, if you're of drinking age, you know, and if you're into high quality stuff. So yeah, man, next time we see each other, hopefully we're playing at a gig. We'll have some food. We'll have some drink. We don't have to worry about dying of a respiratory illness.
Yo, man, what the fuck?
I know, it's crazy. Shit. Hopefully I do know one thing. The next conference that goes up, that shit is going to be
explosive, dude.
Oh my God. I want to be there. The next conference that happens that we're allowed to go back, I want to be there. I'll be on my best behavior for the most part. Everybody who knows me knows I cause trouble everywhere I go, man. It's fucking like that time I took a 10-second shot of swig from the tequila bottle. I can't believe it, man. We were in a room with a lot of high profile people and I was being a drunk asshole, man. It was crazy.
I remember that, dude. I was there. Yeah.
You took a picture of me. I'm holding the bottle like this, like, look what I just did.
I remember that, dude. Yeah. You got totally trashed, dude. I remember that.
Oh man. I was dating Veronica. We were just dating. And I turned into the babysitter. She was so pissed, man. Oh, but that's part of my lovable charm is that I do crazy shit like that. You know,
you can't.
I can't believe that, man. I couldn't live that story down for a long time, and then the next day we had to play Garibaldi with Tapatio, and I'm hungover as fuck all day. And the first person I run into when I get to the casino, Johnny, and he goes up to me. He's like, "Sterling, are you okay?" And I was like, "Johnny,
how you feeling, buddy?
What happened last night, Johnny? Did I start any shit with anybody?" He's like, "No, dude, we had like a 45-minute conversation when you were drunk." I was like, "I don't remember any of that."
Yeah, I vaguely remember, dude. Man, I was missing all of that this past week, man. All the good times with all the homies and having drinks and you know, just seeing all the students and the concert and everything. It's weird. It was weird to just like see it pass by and
all the memories on Facebook. Facebook is being like the worst ex-girlfriend right now. Just keeps on bringing up shit. I'm just like, I don't want to look at that right now.
Yeah, dude.
It'll be good. So yeah, the next conference, you know, hopefully it's a banger, and hopefully wherever it's being held, the hotel staff will understand that. So that should be part of like the board's like communication with the hotel. Like, look, you have to understand.
We're a year behind in this, madre.
Yeah. You may have to just let a couple things slide.
We recommend you do the renovations after we leave.
Yeah, if you're going to schedule renovation, do it after the mariachi conference. It'll be cheaper, and you can insurance write off some of that stuff as loss. We got some like we've been talking about. We have some savvy people that have education and experience. Well, we're going to hook you up. You'll be just fine.
Straight up, man. Yeah. Albuquerque just got canceled too. Did you see that?
I didn't see that. So Albuquerque for sure is off.
It just got canceled for next year. Yeah. So who knows? I think the next one I think Guadalajara in September, and then October I think is Chandler. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. The Chandler thing that happens here. That's right.
And then there's also the November, right? I think Orpheum. And the Bisbee. There's Bisbee also, and then there's also the San Antonio one towards the fall, like mid to late fall. So that'll be interesting, man, to see how all that plays out.
And then there's the Christmas show, and the Vargas always does in Dallas too.
Oh yeah. There's all that, dude. Yeah, it might be interesting. I mean, I don't know. I've read stuff that says this whole thing might go into the whole early fall Christmas timeframe if we don't do special, you know, if we don't follow the directions, and there's like a second wave of this shit.
There will be. I mean, you study some of the pandemics of the past. Those second infections were the worst because I don't think that we're going to be able to shut everything down again. Right? Like you come to the fall and it turns into a desmadre. It's like we're going full steam ahead.
it's like you should have just done it from the get-go, right? A whole month off instead of trying to stagger it and do all this shit where you can't. You've just elongated this whole process like 8 to 9 months because you couldn't just shut it down for 1 month at the beginning.
Yeah. There's always money to fix problems. There's never money to prevent problems. That's a problem that we run into all the time in our profession. You know, it's like, God, if you just do this up front, but when there's an emergency, right? When there's a red line, it's like, all right, I guess we can spend 20 grand all we want on this problem, right? Or even more. It's like, shit.
That's the thing. You can recover money, but you can't recover life.
That's a problem. Like my mom, like, dude, like, shit, I haven't seen her in over a month. And like, I keep having nightmares that I'll never see her again.
It sucks. Yeah. It's a horrible reality that you have to kind of live with too. And like, I feel bad because I would go be, I mean, you Mother's Day is coming up, right? That's a big deal for mariachis and for anybody that goes and visits their mom and stuff. And it's like, shit, man, I can't go visit my mom for Mother's Day.
Yeah. I might kill her.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. I don't want to put any danger in like going home, you know, and I don't know, potentially carrying something over there or getting something on the way back. It's just like, yeah. How about we Zoom?
Yeah, we'll Zoom. Hey, Mom, how's it going? Well, my mom watches all my stuff anyway, so hello. I'm getting skinny, so it's working. All right, brother. I'll let you go. Man. Thank you again. Thank you for viewers. I can't even. I just fucking whiskey, bro. Seriously. For Play Mariachi, the podcast, everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you guys are staying safe. And we'll reach out to people and we'll do more of these. If you guys are liking it, please subscribe, like, comment, all that fun stuff. Adrian, bro.
Later, man.
Stay safe in Tucson. Till the next time.
Cue the Star Wars music.
I know, right? I like the. What do you think? I like the Star Wars music. We'll get that in here. All right, later, man.
All right, man. Take care.